This is Terrence Andre Banks with Information Age Financial Solutions, coming to you again about the pensions. Came across this fantastic article, dollarcollapse.com. New York City joins the imminent bankruptcy club. Now, I'm from New York. I was born there, raised, lived there a good portion of my younger years and my portion of my adult life before I moved. And when I see headlines like this, and as I've mentioned before in countless other videos I've done about pensions, this is the number one crisis we're going to face in our lifetime, because of just how many people are dependent on it. And when I'm saying dependent on it, it's just these are your family members, these are your uncles, your aunts, grandparents. And not enough can be said about this because it's just the importance of it. But right now, it seems like New York, where even you have Wall Street and everything else going on, that this place you would be able to think they would solve their problems. But that's not the case, as I did a video before about the Teamsters. Well, New York City is joining the bankruptcy club, and because of pensions. John Rubino does a great job kind of outlining this, and I think he took it from an excerpt from actually Bloomberg. So let's get right in and dive right into the article itself. As always, I'm going to put a link inside the description. The public pension crisis is the kind of subject that's easy to overanalyze, in part because there's so many different examples of how bad behavior out there, and in part because the aggregate damage these entities will do when they start blowing up is immense. But most people see pensions as essentially an accounting issue, and therefore boring. So it doesn't pay to go back to this particular well too often. Still, New York City's missing $100 billion can't be ignored. New York City owes over $100 billion for retired health care. Bloomberg, New York City faces future health costs for its retired workers of $103.2 billion, an increase of $40 billion over a decade. Is about $5 billion set aside to pay the bill. Okay, the so-called other post-employment benefits liability was disclosed in New York's comprehensive annual financial report released by the city's comptroller office Wednesday. The city's $98 billion unfunded liability for retired health care exceeds the city's $93 billion of bond debt and $48 billion pension fund shortfall. The numbers are huge, says Maria Dulis, a vice president at the Citizens Budget Commission, a budget watchdog group funded by the business community. If you're looking at the big three liabilities, this one is the one that's the most problematic because there's nothing set aside to address this, and there's absolutely no strategy on the part of the city. This is where it comes even more, and there's absolutely no strategy on the part of the city. It's worth repeating. New York, the most populous U.S. city, has almost 300,000 current employees and is responsible for more than 230,000 retirees and their beneficiaries. City's employees with 10 years of service qualify for free retired health care. It's a fantastic place to live it, don't it? The city's most post-employment benefits include health insurance, Medicare Part B, reimbursements, and welfare fund contributions. Medicare Part B covers doctors' services that are received from a federally approved facility or medical practice. Welfare funds are administered by unions and provide supplemental benefits such as prescription drug, vision, and dental coverage. New York City should address its retired health care costs by requiring beneficiaries to share the cost of premiums for health insurance, eliminating the reimbursement for Medicare B, and reducing the contributions to the welfare funds according to the CBC. Yeah, I like to see them try to push that over without any protest. Forget the private sector. This free retired health insurance is not a benefit offered in the public sector, says Dulis. They're not taking up the challenge. Limiting the growth and cost of retired health insurance has not been on the agenda. Unlike debt, which is limited by statute, nothing restricts the level of retired health liabilities. Wow, I kind of read that kind of quickly, but it was worth repeating. Unlike debt, which is limited by statute, nothing restricts the level of retired health liabilities. Money set aside for retired health benefits has been used as a rainy day fund by mayors during the times of fiscal stress, as Dulis. The $5 billion the city currently has set aside is projected to last until 2026. After that, the city will fund benefits on a buy-as-you-go basis. The city paid $2.6 billion in retired health benefits last year. So if they paid $2.6 billion in retired health benefits last year, how are they going to be able to make it to 2026? Something's off with their math. Let's look at the highlights. Maybe John points this out too in the article. The city's $98 billion unfunded liability for retired healthcare city exceeds the $93 billion of bond debt and $48.3 billion pension fund shortfall, which means the retired healthcare deficits in addition to the pension shortfall. Well said. Well said. So this is in addition to the pension shortfall, which is $48 billion. These are separate problems totaling nearly $150 billion for one city. New York City's retired healthcare funded liability rose to $40 billion in the past decade, but it has about $5 billion set aside to pay the bill. So 2 years of just increasing this liability wipes out the money on hand to pay it. That sounds like a cash flow rather than an accounting issue. Well said, John. New York has almost 300,000 current employees and is responsible for more than 230,000 retirees and their beneficiaries. There must be a ratio of employees to retirees where the numbers stop working and the system breaks down. 1-to-1, which New York City is approaching, has to be near that boundary. City employees with 10 years of service qualify for free health care. That has to be a typo, because if it's not, public sector workers have cut themselves a deal that we in private sector can only dream of. Well said again, because nothing in the private sector ever comes even close to that. Historians will have a field day with this one. The point? While Chicago and California hog the unfunded pension liability spotlight, and I've done a bunch of videos on definitely Chicago, it turns out that good old New York City has quietly been accumulating unfunded liabilities sufficient to make the members in good standing of the imminent bankruptcy club. I tell you, man, I don't know how long they can keep this stuff under wraps without it blowing up, but we're past the point of no return. This is a crisis, and it's only getting worse. Get prepared, get mentally prepared, start making provisions if you have not done so. Until my next video, please like, share, leave some comments, and as always, until my next video, I'm out.